Hello and welcome to First Light's Primal Animation. I'm your host Renaya, and if not already, subscribe and notify up. As to today's agenda, we have several points to address about the new course reports that will be rolling out soon. Those points include the intro slide, Hebraic news, sky signs, day off, and then the general calendar at the very end. Now, as far as the intro slides, when you first start viewing the course report, you will be welcomed with the Enoch month 4 or whatever month it is with the weeks that are within that month. From here on out, we will have on the splash screen which season is in play or is in effect at this point in time. As far as the next slide, you'll notice that we have a distinctive 2019 to 2020 at the very top. Before, we only had 2019, and we changed it up because I believe that some people may think that the Gregorian calendar and the Enoch calendar had a 1-to-1 ratio, when indeed there's overlap. Underneath that, you have the time frame. So for the Enoch calendar and the Gregorian calendar, so you'll see June 19th to July 18th. That is what would correspond to Enoch month 4. And underneath it, you will see the priests that would be in office each one of the weeks of the 4th month, corresponding from the 4th Enoch month, day 1, to the 4th Enoch month, day 30. Underneath the priest names and the weeks that correspond to their weeks in office, we have at the very bottom year 4, which is year 4 out of 6 year cycle, or the 6-year cycle. The priest who is the head of the year, in this case, which is Shechaniah, what season we're in, which is summer. After that, we have the Hebrew letter that represents the month. So this is the Dalet, which is 4th in the Hebraic alphabet. From there, we have what weeks are covered in the 4th month. So week 14b through 18a of 52 weeks. And also what days match up with the month at hand. The next screen is just a typical placeholder screen, and after that, the subscribe and notification. As for the next slide, this is the pause, the study for readability slide, and this I want everyone to take seriously because currently in the Hebraic community, there's many people who follow a lunar cycle. Now, we're warned in several passages and several different testimonies that Israel will go off by following the lunar cycle versus following a solar cycle, with the moon being, you say, a second witness. So I know I'm bringing something forth that is different from most people, and that's why it's so important to study independently, to know for yourself what the things that I'm saying are true, or they can just be blown off. Whether the world systems are telling the truth, or whether they're lying to you straight in your face about years and months and seasons and so forth. Now, moving forward, this is a slide called Hebraic News. On this slide, each month, important information that needs to be known ahead of time, any relevant dates that will help understand different holy days that come up will be presented here. Now, on this particular slide, I've taken the opportunity to present that I'm going to be having a new schedule rolling out, that all the prior segments that I've done in the past will be once a week. Now, this does not particularly include Real Talk, which is what we're doing right now, kind of a live, impromptu kind of deal, but rather it is talking about the course reports, the ancient illumination, the quantum corners. Those will be more on the schedule. Now, if you look at what I have below, it is over 3 months and it represents a season, and each season has 13 weekends. So my goal is to post over the weekends as we know them in this current society. Let's just say the Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be inclusive of the weekend. And pretty much the order would be radiation, vibration in the first month, or month A, the illumination, quantum reports, second and third weekends. It depends on where everything is going with the particular lesson plan, and what ties in most effectively. And then of course, before the next month starts, we will have a monthly course report, or the Enoch calendar monthly. If you look at month B, there is an extra weekend or 5 weekends within this particular month, and will correspond to week 8 in the season, and that will be a wild card. Again, kind of choosing what's appropriate at that point in time. And then month C is pretty much a repeat of month A. Okay, now we get into the meat and potatoes of this Enoch calendar monthly. What's important to take away is the purple coloration, because this will be at the very end on the final calendar overview, and it would help you decipher when these sky signs are. The next thing would be that it's the 4th month, so repetition, and also which years this 4th month is in, which this one in this case is 2019 to 2020. Okay, so the first sky sign is Portal 6. If you look at the very top, this is abbreviated as P6, and if you look at all the rest of the slides as well, there are abbreviations with the names, so that when you actually get to the calendar at the very end, it will be uncluttered and easy to identify. Now you may be asking yourself, what is this portal business all about? Well, this is where you will have to forsake what we call modern science, and you have to look at and observe the luminaries, the sun, the moon, the stars for yourself, and also the place where we are on. Pretty much what Enoch testifies to is that the sun is moving through portals, as opposed to us moving around the sun, the heliocentric model in this world that worships the sun, as the Romans did, along with all the planets, which is named after their gods. You have the sun moving, servicing the earth, and it moves through various portals throughout the year. And this movement through the portals is what ultimately leads to different seasons, and each movement also leads to different months. Each month corresponds to a different portal, and this is what we have for this month 4, that the sun is now entering into Portal 6. And if you look on to the right hand side with the picture, with the diagram, you see this circular motion. So in green you have spring, so that means that the sun is coming toward the northern hemisphere. And then as summer comes about, you have the longest day, and then it starts to go back toward the equator, and then it goes past the equator in autumn, and we're experiencing autumn at that point in time. And then when it swings back around and the sun's coming through different portal, you experience winter as we're coming back to spring and the equinox once more. So as I told you already, this will require you to investigate, to study things out deeply on every side, to see whether we're really moving, whether this thing we call gravity is reality, to take a look at and investigate the solar analemma, which I have a photo of right by the other illustration, to help you see this movement, how the sun. In mathematics, there's 2 different values you can take away. One that makes sense, practical, you can put your hand on it, it is real time, and one that's theoretical, kind of like 2 times 2 equals 4 and -2 times -2 equals 4. One is tangible, you can see it. The other one creates somewhat of a mental hiccup, even though it's said that it can be true. And this is what we're facing right now. The numbers work out, don't get me wrong, but is it what we actually observe? Is it truly scientific as they claim it is? Or is it just theoretical mathematics that are proven to be true only in the mathematical construct they have conceived and constructed? Anyway, looking further at this slide of Portal 6, you will notice at the very top the Gregorian calendar and the dates that this particular event occurs from June 19th to July 18th of this 2019, and also the Enoch calendar, which is Enoch month 4, the 1st day through the 30th day, as is noted in Enoch chapter 72 verse 15, which I will have each month as well. Finally, note on the black and purple strips where I have Wednesday and Thursday in the black, and in the purple have day 4 and day 5. Those are the days that correspond week-wise on both calendars. So it's sunrise to sunrise. Yes, so there still is a deviation, but the Wednesday in general will match up with day 4 from sunrise to sunrise, and Thursday will match up with day 5 from sunrise to sunrise. So it takes a little bit of adjusting and knowing that things have been adjusted so that it throws off the calculations. Different systems are used so that it's not readily seen the truthfulness of this calendar. But if you dig in, trust me, you'll see the correlations month after month after month, and then you have to just decide which way you're gonna go. Okay, so next up we have the new moon, and this is a misnomer, and I will have this on each slide for each month as well. When the new moon comes, notice that it is abbreviated as NM, and that it actually comes from the Hebrew word dukwa. Now, of course, I have the transliteration here, and there's no Hebrew or ancient or Paleo Hebrew on the page, but a simple Google search will show you that this dukwa means more so sliver than it would mean new moon, or as I put it, lunar solar conjunction. And this has been one of those dividing points because people do not know where the moon or this dukwa lies, and that's part of the deception. By misconstruing the words, therefore you can reset it, and because people don't know, you become the authority unless they investigate for themselves, which is what I'm encouraging every person to do. Investigate, because when you look at the Enoch calendar, the new moon is more so mid-month, not at the beginning of the month, and that makes a drastic difference for everything. Now do note, when I talk about the month, I am talking about the lunar month at this point. And the lunar month and the solar month are two different things. So there will be no one-to-one correspondence to them because the moon is going slower than the sun. With that being said, the moon can be used as a secondary witness because it has a cycle. And this can be used to figure out where we are at on the solar month, which is what we're looking at with the Enoch calendar. It repeats every 3 years, and because of this repetition, we can extrapolate data even when the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Enoch calendar may seem like they're missing pieces of information, which is exactly what we did for this month. If you look at the bullet points, we have the new moon has been extrapolated to be on the 15th day of 4th solar month on 4th day in week of Jorib. And that's exactly what was observed as well on July 3rd, 2019, the first sliver of the moon. Now I'll give you fair warning. If you look up a site like timeanddate.com, they're going to give you the day of the conjunction, not the day of the first sliver. So just be forewarned, like this previous new moon, time and date shows it as July 2nd, when the actual sliver occurred on the 3rd, and you can check that as well. Now I say all of this because I want you to see all the subtleties that are used to manipulate and to distract people and to send them in a direction that makes the biblical records seem like they're erroneous. And that's simply not the case if someone would just straightforward lay it out. And I'll do my best to lay it out as much as possible. Now going forward, we have our third sky sign, which is the full moon that occurs each month. Now that month is both solar and lunar in nature. Now observe once again, we had to extrapolate the information about the full moon based on the pattern that was given to us in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And anyone can do that if you take time and sit down and note the pattern of how things are presented, and also observe how the luminaries have a pattern in themselves by going out and doing a physical observation yourself. So this time we extrapolated that the full moon will be on the 20th day of the 4th solar month on 3rd day in the week of Harim, and that corresponds to July 16th, which is a Tuesday. So if you have a chance, take a look up at the sky and see the full moon for yourself. And for our final sky sign, we have a ratio between day and night. In this particular slide, the ratio is 11:7 split. Reading the slide, it states the final day of Enoch, month 4, day to year, which is abbreviated as DTY, is 120 or 121. Now all that means is up to that point in the year, that's how many days have passed out of 364 according to the Enoch calendar. So if you look at the graph representation to the right, you have a DTY at the bottom that goes in increments of 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way to 360. And then on the left hand side, you have latitudes only in the northern so-called hemisphere. And those latitudes increase by 10 degrees. So 0 degrees, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, all the way up to 90 degrees north latitude. Now, if you look at the next section on the tight portion of the slide, it says the final day of Enoch, month 4, decreases to 11 parts day and increases to 7 parts night on 30th day, which is the 30th day of the month, of course, of the solar month. And right below it, you have that division in a graphical format. So you have both day and night. Day is in yellow, night is in blue, purple is showing the totals of everything, and the correspondence between parts and hours. So 11 parts is equal to 14.67 hours of daylight, and 7 parts is equal to 9.33 hours of darkness. And if you add them all together, you have a total of 18 parts equal 24 hours. Now, before we exit this section on sky signs, I do want to note one last thing, and that's the highlighted section on the latitude versus the day to year graph that's on the right hand side. And what I want you to focus on is the purplish, almost transparent section that says latitudes of focus. Again, focus on the purplish, almost transparent section that says latitudes of focus. What that means is that's the section where these numbers work. So somewhere between 45 degrees north and 55 degrees north latitude is where these numbers work. And it also shows a geographical location where Enoch would have been viewing things from his perspective. Okay, so finally we've reached the days off section, and this is what you should expect in your typical days off introduction slide. You have Enoch, month, in this case 4, and again we have the 2019 to 2020. Now I find that this is perfect where I'm picking up right here because it allows me to go over one of the crucial memorials of the year. Now this memorial is of the summer memorial, which is abbreviated as SUM, which you would notice with all of the memorials, summer, spring, winter, autumn, that they're abbreviated in 3 letters. And once again, notice the abbreviation, the SM apostrophe in the upper right hand corner, which allows the event to be easily placed on the calendar at the very end. Also note that the picture on the right hand side has a different season, spring, summer, autumn, winter, and that for each season that passes, a unique picture will appear above the appropriate spot. So right now, the summer season has a stoppered drain over it, representing the time during Noah's day where the Most High closed the fountain of the deeps, allowing for a watery burial of the entire world, and symbolic of the burial that would come by way of the Messiah. Of interest, these memorials that occur at the change of seasons are called new moons as well, but more appropriately they should be called a new month, or what I like to call them are new seasons, because they introduce the season and then you have 91 days from each one to the next, divided into 13 weeks exactly. And as you can tell from this slide, the last new season occurred on June 19, 2019. Finally on this slide, note that the Gregorian dates will be on the top in the black section, the black ribbon, and the Enoch calendar date will be in the red ribbon. And just as a clue, red is representative of days off. Finally, we have weekly Shabbats. And one of the changes that has been made is that all of the Shabbats are located on the same slide. They will be listed in sequential order and abbreviated accordingly. So Shabbat 14 will be S14 on the calendar that will follow next. Shabbat 15 will be S15, and so forth and so forth, with the appropriate Dead Sea Scrolls scripture of reference included when possible. Finally, we have this final slide, which I have been alluding to since early on in this presentation, of the overall calendar for the month. As you will notice, it is color coded. Yellow is indicative of summer, so all summer months will be yellow. Green will be indicative of spring, which was prior. Orange will represent autumn, and blue will be representative of winter. Now, I know those are not shown here right now, but just a heads up for future calendars. Now, to your left, you have the priest on this slide that would have been in charge for each week. They are the same names that were on the introduction slide at the very beginning. Now, note the next column is of the modern week. So for the Laya, which is the first one, you have June 19th to 22nd, showing that partial week remainder from the previous month. Such final remainders are represented by the B in the third column, which has 14B, and any portion that is the beginning portion, if we look at the very beginning at Sharum or Harum in Yiddish, is represented by A, as in the 18A that you note at the bottom of the screen in the third column. Also note that each priest's name is given its English translation underneath. So the Laya, which is the first name at the very top on the left hand side, upper left hand side, means Yah has delivered. One other thing to note is that there are 52 weeks in the Enoch calendar. So as we examine the fourth month, we realize that we have not even reached halfway mark, seeing that the weeks are from 14B to 18A. As for everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. As far as the numbering between the different events, the red and purple events, that is pretty natural. And then of course you have your sky signs in purple and your days off in red. Anyway, I think that will pretty much do it for this episode of Primal Emanation. This is Renaya, signing out. Shalom.